Opening with a summoning ritual displaying the clear style of the series, we're shown the MC having a JRPG dream during class. His name is Ginta and he's a gamer. Just a normal middle schooler with a crush on his classmate Koyuki. On the walk home with her, we're told these fantasy dreams are frequent and Ginta's been keeping track of them. At home, he gets a teardown from his mom for sleeping in class and believing his dreams could be real, with a later internal monologue showing us there might be something to it as someone tries to connect to him. The next day, Ginta is stewing when Koyuki asks him about his latest dream. Then the summoning happens. Everyone witnesses it, and Ginta experiences vindication while his classmates are in shock and panic. With a throw of the dice, only one may enter the gate on this new adventure, and Ginta takes his chance. Finally, in the world of his dreams, he crashed down in a meadow and finds that he no longer needs glasses. Teenage excitement, because middle schooler isekai adventure, overtakes him while someone spots him from above. That's when he's attacked by some type of automaton, which he effortlessly throws. The bot belonged to the witch Dorothy and is called a guardian arm, but Ginta and we don't know what that is, so Dorothy explains it. TLDR magic items. And of course, Dorothy baits Ginta into work with the promise of arm payment. She's after a very special arm called Babo. With Ginta charging forward, the pair begin exploration of the dungeon, which is mostly just a chance for Dorothy to go on a monologue about arms. But upon reaching the final room, Ginta is faced with the guardian golem, and while Dorothy fights the golem, Ginta makes a break for the treasure. So what is Babo? A sentient kendama. It has the face and the personality of an old man. Babo isn't too keen on anything other than going back to bed and needs some convincing to join the fight. But by convincing, I mean Ginta is going to use him whether he likes it or not. Laying down a 1-2 punch on the golem with Babo for the fight to end really quickly. And in the aftermath, Babo flatly refuses to let Dorothy have him. So she just leaves because her objective is basically failed. Ginta is now on his own with Babo, exploring an unknown world while his sentient weapon tries to leave him behind. And just as Dorothy predicted, anyone who sees Babo instantly realizes how rare he is and tries to take him from Ginta. After saving Babo from some thieves, it seems like the pair might finally have an understanding, though they still mesh like leftists and objective reality, with a late night raid on some random field to introduce us to the next main character, Jack. Jack and his mom are farmers who are constantly being raided by werewolves. This is a character growth moment with Jack confronting the raiders in spite of his fear, and of course he loses. He may be an MC, but he's not the hero of the story. That's Ginta and Babo. They beat the werewolves and the scene changes to show us a bounty is put on Babo's capture. Now with Jack joining the adventure, the trio contemplate what Babo actually is and find themselves in Pazu Town. But it's not just bounty hunters that are looking for Babo, while the heroes ask around about dimension-hopping arms. Once again, overhead, someone takes notice, a fairy who's looking for Babo. We then learn that the arm that summoned Ginta is called the Gatekeeper Pierrot, and is so valuable you'd have to be a king to buy one. Ginta is overjoyed by the challenge of getting home, and of course, Babo gets stolen again, with the fairy leading the heroes to where Babo was taken. We also finally get a name for the guy who summoned Ginta, Alvis, and his fairy Belle. He seems important. It's episode 5 and it looks like we might actually get a greater plot now with the revival banquet for the chess pieces. Whatever that means. Meanwhile, Alvis picks a fight and actually name drops the bad guys. Then goes on a lore dump about the BBEGs and why Ginta was summoned in the first place. Also, apparently Babo is evil and needs to be destroyed. Of course, Ginta isn't going to let that happen, so it's a fight against Alvis. Next on the adventure strikes Ginta and his gamer heart, a princess rescue, led by a dog mascot character named Ed to infiltrate a castle encased in ice. Ed tells his story as he leads the heroes to the princess. But why is Dorothy here? Well, she's an arms thief. Eventually, finding their way to the princess, she looks exactly like Koyuki, which fires Ginta up even more. But also it appears that the princess is really important, and Jack says that if she's on the run, then something really bad is happening. This is emphasized as 2 chess pieces are here to take Babo. The battle goes sideways, and then the dog pops and turns into a human. His name is Alan, and he's super strong. He helps Ginta save the princess, who falls on him in a lucky way. While a new bad guy shows up to announce the beginning of the second Marheaven War, because that's the name of this world, Marheaven. With things getting weirdly peaceful as both the heroes and villains commit exposition, setting up where the story is heading. Once the bad guys leave, the princess finally introduces herself. Her name is Snow. If you've been paying attention, there's some Western fairy tale nonsense going on. Jack was talking about growing a massive beanstalk, and now a princess with dark hair named Snow. Also kind of a double entendre, because the word for snow in Japanese is Yuki, because of course her name is Yuki. The chess pieces regroup before their boss, ready to let loose the diversity protesters of war. Elsewhere, Snow and Alan join the heroes' party and head out for who knows where. We know where the plot wants to go, but we don't really know how it's going to get there at the moment. That just means it's time for copious world building and character showcasing, with a lot of it coming from Alan and Snow right now. This also includes a bit of training and an explanation on magic stones by Alan, because the heroes aren't strong enough to fight the chess pieces as they are now. Snow also goes on a monologue about arms for Ginta, and they find out that magic stones allow Babo to take new forms that the wielder imagines, with the first one Ginta coming up with being a metal glove. But while the kids are training, Alvis meets up with Alan for a bit of character building, and while this is going on, over 20 days, the chess pieces commit fiery but mostly peaceful protesting all across Marheaven, with that one rook guy eventually finding where Alan is training the heroes. Alan is fatigued maintaining his arms for the training and is nearly KO'd by the low tier when Ginta shows up with his metal glove, now having a sword on it. The training really came through for the heroes, as he can now use different forms of Babo and handedly slaps the rook guy with the new form, a bubble launcher. With Jack and Dorothy showing up for round 2. We're also shown the beginning of a love triangle of dubious authenticity between Ginta, Snow, and Dorothy. And that's when round 2 starts, which is just an excuse to show off Jack's growth. Of course, the good guys win, and the bad guy cuts a deal to heal his friend, then give the healing arm to Ginta before they retreat with a declaration that he'll be back. Alan declares the next objective is to head to the war zone and save the continent from the idiots attacking before passing out and swapping back into the mascot dog. While back on Earth, Ginta's mom is beside herself with worry over her missing son when Koyuki shows up. She laments that her husband, Ginta's father, also obsessed over this other world and one day vanished, never coming back. Also, it seems Koyuki's been having dreams of being Snow, so there's some weirdness going on. A deeper link between worlds being established. Authored by Nobuyuki Anzai, Marchen Awakens Romance is a classic JRPG Isekai hero's tale born from the era of the late 90s. Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Suikoden, Breath of Fire, the JRPGs that thrived on the SNES and PS1. N64 got Quest 64, which was fantastic, but it didn't really get many classical JRPGs. Mar is that kind of hero's tale all the way through. The only disparate hero is Babo, being very full of himself in spite of his missing memory. He's extremely willful for a sentient weapon and often picks fights with just about everyone he finds a problem with, from Ginta to Alan to a random bad guy. Ginta being the wannabe hero, overeager for his adventure and a bit too headstrong to back down when he's outmatched. Jack providing ample comic relief with quips and gaffes playing off of Ginta's absurdity, Snow and Dorothy causing conflict for different reasons, Alvis being the brooding girl bait, and Alan being both a moral and plot driver to the party of largely children. It published from May 2003 to July 2006, completing 161 chapters across 15 volumes with a short sequel Mar Omega, co-authored and drawn by Koichiro Hoshino, that published from September 06 to June 07, completing with 39 chapters in 4 volumes. Then from April 05 to March 07 would air the 102 episode anime crafted by Synergy SP, same studio that crafted the last 2 seasons of Initial D, Dead Account, Kaku's Fiancé, Taisho Otome Fairy Tale, and Solo Camping for 2. Mar was the studio's first work, and it shows. It's rough around the edges and carries the early 2000s shonen style you'd expect from competing series, like Eureka 7, Aquarion, Tsubasa Chronicles, and Eyeshield 21. It was even competing with Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, and Zatch Bell when they were comparatively young series. The fact that it got 102 episodes during what was the initial rise of shonen series is impressive, especially after considering it's an isekai about a decade before the isekai genre blew up in popularity, and it's the maiden series of a, at the time, new studio. Don't know how many could have pulled that off at the time, but Synergy SP did. The story itself is actually really good. It leans into the JRPG inspiration without relying on the menu screens that watered down world building in many isekai series that get published nowadays. It had to explain a world build which set rules for the way the world works, and the characters don't break these rules. Ginta may be stronger than a normal person from Marheaven, but that gets explained in the usual way. Earth's gravity is greater, which makes Earthlings naturally stronger under lower gravity. It's kinda tropey for isekais, but that's a feature. You can be tropey and still make a good story, especially with hints that Ginta's family may be more tied to this alternate world than anyone realizes. The comedy and humor itself isn't out of place either. It's not an absurdist comedy, so there's no world or rule breaking for the laughs, though it still plays on the sight gag tropes for the infighting scenes. The tone of both the story and the comedy is limited to the age range of the heroes, about middle school. That is both a blessing and a detriment, since it prevents gratuitous fan service or violence, but also keeps the story light and straightforward while still taking itself seriously. And the fact that it came out in the mid-2000s means the dub is entirely watchable, so you don't have to worry about activists overly shoehorning ideology into the script. I am the NBT. This has been the Noble Weeaboo. Like or don't, sub or don't, and thank you for watching. Marchen Awakens Romance is a fun fantasy adventure. It knows when to silly, it knows when to serious, it knows how to build and relieve tension and drama, and I think it's Anzai's best work, even if it wasn't his most successful one. It's a good series for relaxation and entertainment while being safe for most of the family, though very young children might find some of the characters scary.